Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Double Take with the Safety Bros. I'm Alex Safety, here with my brother John. John, what is happening?
What's going on? It's Super Bowl Monday. I don't have class today, but I've said for the past few years, I think this should be a national holiday. Everyone can have their Super Bowl hangover and just enjoy the day.
I agree.
That's my thought.
I definitely agree, John. And, you know, it's either a lot of celebration and feeling good, or maybe if you're like us this morning, not too happy with the results. Maybe you lost some money. Maybe you're not a big Brady guy. And then this morning, you know, we're just going to let out all our feelings. And
we're
gonna
we got
recap.
a lot to say.
We do. So this morning, we're gonna run through our Super Bowl takeaways. We're going to talk about what were the keys to the game. How did the Bucs get it done? To our surprise, pretty much. We're gonna talk about Patrick Mahomes. Can he still catch Brady as the GOAT? Because I know that was a huge conversation that was leading up to the Super Bowl, of course. We're going to talk about, and then we will transition to the NBA. We're going to talk about the MVP conversation. Who do we like right now? We're definitely a fifth through the season.
About a quarter,
Maybe almost a quarter. So about a quarter through the season. What teams should panic? What teams do we think are legit this year? And so we'll end with NBA talk. But first off, John, let me just give you a blank canvas. What is your takeaway from Super Bowl 55?
All right, so Alex, Alex has definitely been riding the Chiefs wagon. I've been on that wagon as well. You know, the Mahomes, just him looking as good as he has in his first 3 seasons, coming out. All the statistics were there. He's never lost by more than 8 points ever. You know, in his first 3 seasons, it was, MVP in the first one with the 50 touchdown season. He lost in overtime.
And he didn't get the ball. He
lost the overtime to the Patriots and Tom Brady, the eventual champions, because he didn't get the ball back because of the stupid coin flip rule. And then the following season, he was injured for part of it, didn't get the regular season MVP, ends up going to the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl with a 10-point comeback in the fourth quarter.
And they came back every single playoff game that they played, including being down 21 points to the Texans.
Right?
No, 20. They're down 24 points to the Texans,
right,
and then end up winning that game by 21 points.
Yeah.
So an incredible, as you're saying, an incredible run from start to finish, basically.
And I've heard far too many screaming matches between Alex and a casual guest of the show, Max Barnes, who he's a huge Brady guy just because he's a Patriots fan, and we chirp him for that for liking the Buccaneers now. But whatever, my takeaway, Alex. So looking at all that, coming into this game, I was solely betting on this Mahomes factor.
Yes.
And so now my main thing is I can never pick the Super Bowl winners. So going back to 2014, it was the MVP Peyton Manning-led Broncos. They were favored by 2 over Russ Wilson and the Legion of Boom defense Seahawks that year. It was the best offense versus the best defense. It was super exciting, right? And like I said, the Broncos were favored. I think that year everyone wanted to see Manning win. He was the MVP. You know, he was a guy who he didn't have as many accolades and as many Super Bowls as Brady, but everyone knew he was as talented.
He had an incredible season that year,
so
too.
Everyone's rooting for him. And it's a 43-8 blowout. They were up 30. The Seahawks were up 36-0 in that game.
Yeah, that was a terrible game.
So let's just think about trends really quick. Okay, so the better defense won that year. 2 years later, the MVP Cam Newton-led Panthers were favored by 5.5 over the Broncos. And this time the Broncos weren't led by Peyton Manning, and he was that quarterback that won, but he was not the same guy because of just age and injury. But they were led by the Broncos' all-time great defense, that 2015 defense that year. And we were all shocked when we saw the MVP once again losing the Super Bowl and the 5.5 favorite loss.
And really quick, there's a connection to this year. I don't know if you've been seeing, but of course with Kansas City's offensive linemen, all the injuries that have happened throughout the year, especially last week or 2 weeks ago to Eric Fisher, they had Mike Remmers as one of the main guys protecting Mahomes.
Right.
Mike Remmers was protecting Cam Newton in Super Bowl 50, whichever one it was. Super Bowl 50.
Yeah.
And Von Miller, one of the reasons he got the MVP that year, the Super Bowl MVP, was because he had 2 sacks because he was breaking right through Mike Remmers. Mm-hmm. And, of course, we saw that again last night with Mike Remmers trying to protect Mahomes.
So just those are 2 losses I just remember. You know, I wasn't betting crazy. I was betting probably $20 with one of my uncles that we were watching the Super Bowl those years. That was we were 14 and 15 those years. So now fast forward to last year. I'm like, I've seen this movie before. We got the 49ers top defense. We got the Chiefs top offense. I'm picking the better defense. Like, I know Mahomes is the MVP. He's the guy. But you got to pick against the MVP because the MVP is always losing the Super Bowl. We've seen that before. And the better defense usually prevails. And Mahomes broke the rule. We were up 20-10 going into the fourth quarter. I was like, wow, look, I finally picked the right team. I did it. I learned from my past losses. And Mahomes and the Chiefs scored 21 points in the fourth quarter, and they win 31-20. So then that game just completely skewed what I thought I knew. I was like, wow, like it's the defensive rule. You got to pick the better defense.
Maybe you got to factor in the quarterback
defense,
too.
Look at defense wins championships, whatever. Well, Jimmy G was a guy who I saw as he wasn't going to make the game-winning play, but their defense was good enough. He didn't. But his defense was good enough where all he had to do was be pretty good. Yeah. And that's what he did. And that's what I thought he was going to do. And, of course, Mahomes and the Chiefs just went off in that fourth quarter, scoring 3 touchdowns. So that day I told myself, how am I such an idiot? I liked Mahomes. I was just betting on the Niners defense, whatever. Like, you know what? Never bet against Patrick Mahomes. And that's what coming into this year, given all the things about the offensive line injuries, about the fact that it was, everyone was making the Buccaneers argument like, maybe the Chiefs have the best player in Mahomes and maybe the top 2 players in Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, whatever. But then after that, 4 through 12 is like, all the guys that the Bucs have with between their receivers, between Brady, between their defensive guys like JPP and Sue and, Levante David, all these great defensive players they have. And just the depth they had, the defense, the all-around factor, and then, Andy Reid as a coach now coming in had this distraction with something that happened with his son, of course, and all these things are pointing to the Buccaneers, and I just said, you know what, I'm just going to stick on the wagon. I've had the Chiefs all year. I've said the Chiefs were going to win all year long. I had the, the pre-playoffs bet, all that. I stuck on the wagon, but I was... I did not feel good. I was hanging on for dear life before the game started, and of course, we saw what happened.
In our defense, John, there were a lot of factors pointing to why you wouldn't bet on Mahomes. We had never seen him lose a big game. Like you said, I think his big
small sample size though.
It was small sample size. This was easily the worst loss of his career. It was also the worst game of his career, which we'll talk about how we think he played in a minute. But I think you did get to the key of what happened, and people will love to focus on the big names and, of course, the quarterbacks, and the people will reduce this win to don't bet against Tom Brady. And I think that's stupid, but then I'm also hypocritically dumb because I picked the Chiefs with, like you said, our main reason was we were just sticking with Mahomes. Yeah. But I think... that's how the average fan and how people who aren't super
the money
smart
was on the Chiefs. It was 80% of the money for FanDuel. I'm pretty sure was all on the Chiefs, which scares you. You if you're with the public, there's some big L is about to take place for people all over.
But I guess
all the bettors all over.
I think we definitely missed, and the key here was obviously the offensive line was terrible. It was a joke. I mean, look at. Let me just give you the statistic right here. According to ESPN Stats and Info, Brady was pressured 4 times, John, on 30 dropbacks. Mahomes was pressured 29 times on 56 dropbacks. So the offensive line was bad. From week 7, right tackle Mitchell Schwartz was out. Then last week or 2 weeks ago, left tackle Eric Fisher went out with an Achilles injury. And then I just read this yesterday because, of course, I was reading everything to the takeaways from the game. And they also had a left guard who tore both knee tendons in week 5, and another guy who this year, after they won the Super Bowl last year, just didn't show up because he opted out to serve to be a doctor in Canada.
Oh, wow.
Which I was like, wow, okay. I know, of course, all season long, no one was saying this. The big guy, the big domino to fall was, of course, you have left tackle Eric Fisher going down in the AFC Championship game. But so from start to finish of the season, they just were losing those guys. And football, it's not, at the end of the day, it's not all about Tom Brady versus Mahomes. It's a lot about everything else, and that's
even more so than bat. I mean, we talk about LeBron versus KD, and it's like, oh, KD and the Warriors beat LeBron and the Cavs. We're like, no, Kevin Durant had Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and LeBron James had Della Vadova and Tristan Thompson. So it's the concept that matters. That's a 5-player sport. Now you're going to football where there's offense, there's defense, there's special teams, there's a million different coaches, there's a million different players for different skill positions that aren't interchangeable the way basketball players are. Much, much different, and that's why I'm agreeing with you there, Alex.
And I think the other key there is you look at, people will say the quarterback is the most important position in all sports, and that's probably true. But I would say, I don't know if I would probably push back because they don't even have as much what's it called, control over a game or influence over a game as just one NBA player. Yeah. Because of the fact that Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes only play half of the game. They don't even go on the other side of the field. Mm-hmm. So when everyone, and Tom Brady, is no coincidence he has 7 rings. I'm not saying that, but I definitely am of the camp that would say over his career, he's been incredibly lucky with health, and you got to give him credit for staying healthy, taking care of his body. But with the defense, and the last Super Bowl, I was so salty, or 2 Super Bowls ago, when they won 13-3 versus the Rams.
That was the one.
And that was
Super
all
Bowl.
defense.
I mean, that was the one Super Bowl I did pick right. I mean, it was. I remember Pat's 2.5 favorites over Goff. And the Rams, and Todd Gurley was injured. It was like, everyone's like, well, Sean McVay, he's a great coach. I'm like, absolutely not. I'm not betting against Brady. I've bet against Brady before. They're winning this.
There you go. You say Brady, and to me, that was very clear. It was their defense was incredible. They held the Rams to 3 points, and now again, people are going to give Brady credit, which you have to give him credit. It was him from the start of the season coming in, and of course, you went from Tampa Bay. That's not, historically not a great franchise. And now they were in the Super Bowl and they have the first time they made the playoffs in like 13 seasons. However, if you watched last night and you weren't just completely blown away by Tampa Bay's defense on the offensive powerhouse that is Kansas City, shutting down Mahomes, shutting down Tyreek Hill, who, my goodness, I can't believe they did that. And then Kelsey, who ended up with over 100 yards, which he always seems to do that even when the defense looks like they're doing a good job on him. But they the Tampa Bay's defense shut those guys down and held them to 9 points and 0 touchdowns. So I think my big takeaway is just the defense, and I'm giving all the credit to the defense. Partially also because I don't like Tom Brady and I don't want to give him more credit than he already gets.
So I'm with you, and like I'm the last person to be, going, woo, Tom Brady, whatever. But the culture factor is undeniable.
Of course. And
you have to talk about this in the sense that, think about LeBron and the way he goes to whatever team. The Lakers were an absolute dumpster fire organization since like Kobe got injured that year with the Dwight Howard year. Since then, until LeBron came to them in, what was it, 18 or 19? Since that season, they were horrible. LeBron goes to them, and he brings in Anthony Davis, and he brings in Vogel and Jason Kidd as coaches, and he brings in all the role players, guys that he wants. And now this year again, Marc Gasol and Schroeder and Harrell and or like even on the Cavs, he goes to the Cavs and they do the trade for Love and brings in Richard Jefferson and J.R. Smith, and he does that. And this year, look at what Brady did. Look at who caught those touchdowns last night. It was 2 for Gronk, who he brought in, and Gronk talked about after the game, I got the call from Brady, and Brady said, will you come down? And Gronk told him, I was waiting for you to call me. It's like, and I know Pats fans are upset about that, like our friend Max, because Gronk said, he cried and
he was injured and he was retiring, and then of course he comes back. Yeah. But he also, since then, they've thrown a lot of shade at Belichick, and like he's like, nah, I'm free, I'm liberated. Because Belichick is very militant with how he runs things, and now Brady and Gronk were able to have fun.
But so look at who got the passes. It was 2 for Gronk. It was Antonio Brown, who was also Brady's guy that he wanted the Patriots to keep last season, and they got rid of him. They kind of like, remember when the Heat got rid of Mike Miller, and that upset LeBron. Yeah. It was kind of like that. Like they didn't give Brady his toy. He got upset. And then again, Leonard Fournette, a guy who we thought was done after the Jags dropped or released him, whatever. The Bucs pick him up. Those are the 4 touchdowns. Yeah. Okay, those 4 guys that were not on the Bucs last year, but that came in and bought in because Brady brought them in.
It's incredible for the narrative as well, and I think I agree with you, but it's a little different. So I think those guys, a year ago, you would have said those guys are all washed. And then you look now, and it's like, oh, of course, with Brady, when Brady has all these studs, like they come in and they score the other guys who scored the touchdowns. But when Brady came to Tampa Bay, it was like, oh, they have Evans, they have Godwin, Brady. I think they still had O.J. Howard, all these guys, young Ronald Jones. But then you look, and he's brought in. It's like same with LeBron. You looked at that Lakers roster at the beginning of the season. It's like a lot of those guys had not had a lot of success in the previous few years, but when you have LeBron to the mix, it's like it makes all sense. So of course, same with Brady. You have these guys like Brown, who's out of the league, Fournette, who literally got dropped at the beginning of the season, and you drafted him in fantasy and made you look stupid. And then Gronk, who was retired, and we thought his body was broken down, but Gronk's also super.
Well, listen,
Brady makes it happen, and
he's the same age as Travis Kelce, so you can look at that. Gronk maybe needs to out. And before we move on from this, I just lastly wanted to say, I'm taking a class, organizational behavior, right now, right? And my professor actually brought up, because he's done research on like how teams are successful. Yeah. And one study he did, I think it was like for his dissertation or whatever when he was in school, he did it on sports teams. He like analyzed sports teams and talked about why they were successful. And he actually brought it up, like the beginning of class was like, Amendola had this quote, Tom Brady is the Patriot way. Yeah. It's not Bill Belichick, whatever. And the point is that it's not about how Brady plays football. It's about what happens in the locker room. And I believe in that. And I know
those guys buy in. They
Bleacher
just buy
Report
in.
and ESPN loves, like, you know, throwing this huge Brady party, like, oh, Brady, you know, told a crying player in the locker room, like, what the heck are you crying for? Like, we have another game to play, whatever. But I hate when Bleacher Report like hypes him up like that. But it's true. They buy in and they want to play for him, and it's the one thing on their mind is winning the Super Bowl. We don't care about anything individual. We don't care about, you know, winning one game. We're not celebrating like that. It's all about winning the Super Bowl at the end of the season. And he motivated them all on. So as a leader, forget his play on the field. You know, you could argue, Alex, that you could slot in an average quarterback that would make those passes because he's 43 and he's not at the peak of his game.
I probably will make that argument.
He's at the peak of his game, but just as a leader, bringing in the you know, the culture, and yes, you could credit the Patriots organization as much as I don't want to give them credit. You can credit them for that as well, who taught him how to win as well. You know, I just say that's the factor there. And at the end of the day, we were just betting on the fact that we liked Andy Reid as an offensive coach, Pat Mahomes is an awesome quarterback, and Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Past that, we weren't like really looking at X's and O's too deeply. Okay, so we can move on now. All right, so moving on, Alex. This was an awesome Super Bowl. It was like the GOAT Super Bowl. That's what everyone was talking about. GOAT versus GOAT, Mahomes versus Brady. And whoever wins this is going to and if Mahomes wins this, he's going to have a shot to become the GOAT. If he loses this, then Brady undisputed. So I got to ask you a question, Alex. Can Mahomes still catch Brady? You've been on the record numerous times saying he's already the GOAT 3 seasons in. Do you think he can catch Brady? Talk about how you're going to calculate that based on the fact that, do you really think he can catch 7 Super Bowls? Because I do not believe so. What do you think, Alex?
I do right. That was a hot take that I usually like giving, mostly just because I like, you know, giving hot takes. I also don't like Brady, and I like Mahomes. So that's why I would say he's already the GOAT. I was saying that, and I said if he loses this one, he isn't already the GOAT. My argument for that was because I believe that he would become the GOAT. So when everyone starts saying it in 10 years from now, 15 years from now, I will have already been saying it for 10 years. Anyway, so I'm driving the bandwagon. But obviously now he just lost, and so now he's not the GOAT. But do I think he can catch Brady? I think a lot of the things that I've seen on ESPN and in podcasts, things like that, it was if Mahomes can win this one against Brady, the door is wide open for him to be able to catch Brady because he can get 6 rings and he has a long career left. And if he loses, then even if Brady retires with 7, and let's say Mahomes gets to 5 or 6, you'll say, oh, well, he never beat Brady. Now Brady will always still have that over him, which is true. However, I think it's way too early to say he'll never catch him, and people would probably say you're crazy. There's no way he gets 7, but I think a lot of us would have said there's no way Tom gets 7 just like 10 years ago probably.
Yeah.
So
well, even not forget that 5 years ago. Look, it was 5 years ago would have been 2016. Okay, that was right before the Atlanta Super Bowl.
Yeah. So at that point he was at 4.
Right now he had 3 Super Bowls. From age 37 on, he got 4 more.
Yeah.
He won at 37, at age 39.
39.
41 and 43.
Yeah, unreal.
So those are the 4 ages that he's won 4 Super Bowls.
So and that's unreal, man. After you're age 37, you have like literally a Hall of Fame career at the point. So that's insane. Of course, the question with Mahomes is can he stay healthy? Because that's the key with Brady. Brady's been playing for 2 decades, literally since we were born. He's been playing, which is insane. Mm-hmm. And he's been winning since that time as well. Mahomes came in, and I thought they could have won the Super Bowl his first rookie season. Or not his rookie season, but the first full season he played. They didn't. Last season, they did it again. I thought they were going to repeat this year, which would be a big deal because no team has repeated since Tom Brady and the Patriots 04-05, Super Bowl 38, 39. But I would say that, like, let's say, John, next year, the Chiefs win, and then they win maybe another 2 years from now. So now that'll be 3. He'll be still under 30. Like, his case will be the LeBron one. If he can catch Brady in touchdowns, in yards, in those type of accolades, and then maybe you get to 5 or 6 rings, and then at the end of the day, people just look at you, who is a better quarterback? And I think it's a no-brainer. I think Mahomes is a more talented quarterback and a better quarterback, but of course, winning does matter. So a lot of people are going to shut the door, and I'm going to say, we're not going to really have the conversation about this until Mahomes wins another Super Bowl, and then we'll start talking, well, maybe he can do it. Right now, the door's closed, but I still think that it's not locked, and some people think it's locked.
Okay, sure. I'll give you that. It's not locked because of how young Mahomes is. Like, it is conceivable that because he has enough time. Time is on his side, right? He's 25. Brady is 17 or 18 years older than him. So if he plays to that age, and the medicine and the doctors and all that should only get better, and all the different factors like that can help players play for longer, that all is on Mahomes' side. However, what Brady has done is just to me, I'm right now he's with Jordan, he's with Ali. I think LeBron's there because I think of just the longevity. No, I mean I don't know who else is on the longevity. Maybe Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is up there with LeBron and Brady for how they take care of their bodies, how they stay in shape and are able to be 43 years old and to look like you could like last night you saw what he did. I mean, he has a good offensive line, he has a good defense, and he has good weapons. So that's what I have to say. I have to give him credit. Going to Tampa was such a genius
and he
decision.
knew it. And he knew it because, and my thing with his last Patriots season was, I mean, it was like they were 8-0, and everyone was talking about how great their defense was, and Brady, and Brady was very average that season all throughout, and he was actually average at best.
Yeah.
And my thing, and people would say, well, he doesn't have any weapons. He's throwing to Jacoby Myers. He's throwing to N'Keal Harry, this, that. And my argument was, that's never been a problem in the past. In the past, he's had guys where, I mean, most of the time, he turned guys into great players like Chris Hogan, whoever, and like even you look at like Edelman or Amendola, those guys are good players, but Brady always took them over the top. And the fact that he didn't do that last year, I was like, all right, that's just proof to me that he's not the same player that he was. And well, while that was true, now you put him in a position where, like you said, he had everything around him, everything was clicking, and that was overall. I mean, just look at Tampa Bay. There was a very balanced roster, a very deep roster, and so when he did have everything around him, he was able to put them in a position.
Yeah.
To win,
so I guess that's what I'm saying. He's like age 43, and he looks like he could still. Like, would you be shocked if this team won it again next year?
Yes, I'd be completely shocked.
Okay,
they're not winning back to back, and we just saw.
Fine.
I mean, you look.
I'll give you
as
that,
great as Kansas City looked, and they were young, and last year they won, and there was no sign of stopping.
I would be shocked, but again, looking at this year, I would have been shocked if they did this year. Just looking at the challengers, you're like, oh, well, the Saints should be better, and Breeze is 2 years younger than him, and it's Rodgers. It's the year of Rodgers and the Seahawks. Russ looks really good, and who knows? Kyler Murray's coming back, and the 49ers are going to be hungry after losing in the Super Bowl. Like, there was all those teams in the NFC. You were like, how the heck are the Bucs going to get in there? And they just dominate in the rounds. Brady beats Breeze, he beats Rodgers, and he beats Mahomes in the same playoffs. I don't know. So if the defense comes back and they're still hungry and everyone's great and they move some things around and get their receivers, and now Godwin and Evans are still there, whatever. I mean, who knows? Brady can sit back in the pocket. He won't let himself get hurt. He'll throw it away before that happens. I think, I wouldn't be totally shocked.
And John, before we switch to NBA in like 2 minutes, I wanted to just ask, because we kind of glossed over this. How do you think Patrick Mahomes played last night?
Yeah, so I think I don't blame him for the loss. I mean, I could never do that. And to me, it's kind of like the LeBron losing in 2015 to the Warriors. Of course, we're going to make NBA analogies here because that's what we do at Double Take. But to me, it was like the offensive line. It felt like every play he was running backwards, getting off a ridiculous throw. And there's that one picture of him horizontal, like jump. He's like in a Superman stance,
zinging that ball,
throwing
and that ball
yards.
was right on target. And
yes,
to me, that picture will encapsulate. I'm gonna make.
Well, and then the image of his face right after. His eyes are like wide open. You can just tell he's like all of America and everyone who's watching. Their hearts all broke from Mahomes in that play.
And because there was so many plays like that where I gave the stat. He had 56 dropbacks where everything wasn't working for them, and their best option was like, all right, Mahomes, like our offensive line's not protecting you. Just drop back and like we're on the playground right now. Just find someone. And the fact that happened, and it looked like it was. I couldn't when he was making those passes. Like, what is he doing? That looks incredibly dangerous. And of course, he hits Tyreek Hill right in the hands, basically, and then he hits Darrell Williams right in the helmet, basically.
Yeah.
So those two, if you give them those two touchdowns, we have a game.
Yeah.
And so this was.
Kelsey had a big drop in
Kelsey
the beginning as well.
that one too, man. And so there were so many big drops, and we can look at this and say it was Mahomes like the worst game of his career. He still made a ton of plays, which you look at last year's Super Bowl, the first half he did not play a good first half. The second half is when he pulled everything together.
Fourth quarter.
And,
21 points
exactly.
in the fourth quarter.
And so I really thought that like that was going to happen again, and because I know how good he is, and he really did make the plays despite how weak the offensive line was and how incredible Tampa Bay's defense was, but his receivers just weren't catching anything. And that's why, I mean, the thing that bums me out most about this is just for Mahomes, because as like a Mahomes fan, I really like him, and I think And like I said, I'm trying to drive the bandwagon of him being the GOAT and overtaking Brady,
Yeah.
but we're going to have to put that on hold for a little while longer. Okay, Johnny. That's enough NFL talk. That's the most NFL talk we've probably ever done on the show. Let's move on. This morning I got an alert on my phone that the Brooklyn Nets had signed Noah Vonleh, forward/center, who's a young guy. And, you know, the main talk with the Nets had been about how terrible their defense has been despite having Kyrie, Harden, and KD. And the other thing is, well, who's going to stop Davis? Who's going to stop LeBron? Is Noah Vonleh going to be the Davis stopper, John?
Okay, yeah. So my quick thoughts on this. I mean, he's 25 years old. His average, like, last season was, like, 3 points and 3 rebounds. So, like, no, obviously he's not the guy. But you can see they're trying to figure it out right now. I just don't know what they do because they've traded away all assets. I don't know how they're going to pull off getting a guy like JaVale McGee, which would be a huge help to them. But, you know, I think they really did lose the situation when they weren't able to get Serge Ibaka. I thought the Nets and the Clippers were those two guys, the two teams that were like, all right, we need to figure out how we're going to stop Anthony Davis, whatever. And the Clippers got that. I still think there really is no answer for Anthony Davis other than maybe Bam Adebayo that's healthy.
I mean,
when you have
even that,
when you have a monster like Jimmy Butler on your team, I think last year it could have happened with the Heat. But, of course, the Heat were injured. This year, I just think the Lakers are going to win. I think at this point, have I changed my thoughts on the Nets? No. I think their offense is going to be awesome. Their defense is going to be an issue. And is it conceivable that they get out of the East? Yes. Am I more? Oh, yeah. That's what I said.
Well, no. I mean, you said conceivable. I feel like you were favoring them before.
Oh, no. Yeah. It's totally. They can definitely get out of the East.
Or are you picking them to get out of the East?
I'll explain. Am I more worried now looking at how awesome Embiid looks on his last 3 games when he has 37, 33, 34? That's what Embiid's just doing like on a nightly basis. Exactly. It was like, February 2nd, February 3rd, February 6th. Like, he's just doing this, and that's the one thing that the last piece that we thought Embiid needed to get before he was going to be truly a great player in this league was the consistency all season long. It's been 19 games through the season. Do I think Embiid's going to last? For now, let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say it's about his hunger. It's about the doctors, about Doc Rivers getting him in line, whatever else.
Well, yeah, so their team overall is looking
for
much
now.
Better.
Yes, Sixers were my preseason pick. I'm gonna stick with that for now. Do I think the Nets could beat them? I could see it happening. I don't know what their answer is for Joel Embiid though. So
the answer would have to be like maybe JaVale McGee getting bought out or maybe Drummond. If people are talking about Drummond, I don't think Drummond's that great of a defensive player. But anyway,
I mean, he's a huge step up from Kevin Durant.
He definitely is, exactly. The other answer would just be that they have to outscore the other team, and that's their path to winning. And when you have Kyrie, James Harden, and Kevin Durant, really anything is possible. And they will. I think Nick Wright said this as soon as they got Harden. He's like, they're making the bet that they can be the worst defensive team ever to win the NBA title.
Yeah.
Okay, John. So it's a good segue actually to the MVP conversation. You mentioned Joel Embiid, who's having his career year. He came in, and clearly there's been a difference. I know a lot of people felt like he was always a guy who could do that if he just locked in and put his head down. But he's at the top of the list, John. Do you think he's the MVP if the season ended today?
So right now, if the season ended today, yes, Embiid is the MVP. Jokic is probably number 2, and LeBron is number 3. And I think LeBron is definitely going to be gunning for it. On the last episode, I said I think LeBron's going to come for it. And I have gotten a little more worried just looking at Embiid and Jokic the past few weeks, just how good they've looked. Because the NBA, like, for MVP voting, it's always like the narrative of like, what was this one feat that happened that we hadn't seen in a super long time or that hadn't ever happened before or whatever. Steph Curry and what he did shooting 3-pointers and looking amazing. Giannis' season, his like per 36 minutes were like, 30 and 15 rebounds.
His overall stat line, like only Kareem had done.
Yes, it's unreal. And his like the PER, all that stuff.
Look at Harden, the scoring.
Harden and his scoring. Actually, was it this?
36?
No, he had 36 that year, but he lost to Giannis.
He lost. You're right. Okay.
Whatever. Russell Westbrook averaging triple-double. I think we're gonna get in that territory because Embiid right now, as a center, is averaging 29.3 points per game. So, Alex, my trivia question for you is, who was the last center to average this many points, and what season was it?
Okay. I'm going to say it was not the last 10 years. No way. Boogie Cousins definitely wasn't Boogie Cousins.
He got close. Boogie got to 26, but you're right.
It would have had to be Shaq.
Good. Correct.
Shaq. Let's go.
Okay.
Right.
So what year was it?
01.
It was 2000.
Okay.
Which was Shaq's MVP year. But just to
and wasn't he the last center to win the MVP?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess if you don't count Garnett or Duncan, right?
Yeah.
So, yes, you're right about that. So Shaq did it in his MVP season, but he only averaged over 29, and that year he had like 29.7. Okay, but he'd only averaged 29 two other times. So what Embiid's doing, Shaq, the greatest dominant offensive center, he did that 3 times in his career. So right now, and listen, we're 19 games in. Do we think this will last? If Embiid stays healthy, we should say that it would, because he's going to continue to have to play like this for them to be this good. Do we trust his health? Right now, it's an unknown. We can't, based on what we've seen in the past seasons of his career. But right now, for that reason, I'm saying, the voters are going to say, LeBron, we love him. He's great. He's the GOAT. But he's averaging 25.5, 7 and 7. Okay? Last season, the averaging 10 assists LeBron, that was a LeBron where you could say, wow, LeBron at this age 36, averaging 10 assists, we're going to give him the MVP for the narrative, whatever. I could see that happening. But this year, LeBron averaging 25, 7, and 7. I mean, his career averages, he's basically 27, 7, and 7 every single season. So this year, to be a little bit off of that, I think LeBron needs to have the extra spice thrown into his MVP case. I don't know that he has that. I know that Embiid has it because he's new and he's fresh, and everyone has wanted to see Embiid be this good since we saw him in his second or third season in the NBA. And Jokic as well, another player, center, averaging 27 points right now, who had 50 the other night, and a few games before had 47.
Yeah.
So right now, 2 centers, and I don't have that trivia question for you, Alex, but I wonder what it is. When was the last time 2 centers averaged 27 plus?
In the 90s. With
I'm thinking of a year.
Ewing, Olajuwon,
I don't even know
maybe Shaq.
Yeah, maybe. It had to be one of those
or
years.
even,
I don't even know.
I don't know.
But probably then. So right now, Alex, I just think LeBron, and listen, is LeBron the most valuable player? The way we talked about how Brady's value for the culture and for the everything that he does to a team to build them and become a winning franchise. Yes, he is every single season, but is he going to have enough firepower in his argument to get it? I don't know if he will.
Well, here's you got to look at. You got to look at the stat lines, and right now Embiid's giving you 29 points a game. I imagine he has 10 rebounds a game too.
Yeah,
or about 10.
He's at about 11.
So he's averaging double. They're 17 and 7. Then you look at Durant. Durant's about 30 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists. Durant's having another career, incredible.
Got,
However, the Nets, their record isn't that competitive right now. I mean, they're at the top of the East. However, they're only 3 games above 500. Then you look out west at Jokic, who his stat line, I think he's 26, 12, and 7 assists. So that's also incredible. That's something we've really never seen except for this guy Jokic. And then you look at LeBron, who their record's a little bit better, and he's averaging 25, 7, and 7. I think if the season ended today, actually, John, I think people might vote for LeBron. I think LeBron would win, actually. I totally
disagree with you.
And here's why. Because if you look at the teams that we just mentioned, the Lakers still have the best record among all of those guys. And
the Sixers?
Yeah, they're better. They have more.
The Sixers are at the top of the East right now.
Well, and the Lakers are number 2 in the West, and they have a better record. So it's 18 and 6 for 17 and 7. So.
They're one.
So what I'm predicting, Alex. You're right. I mean, you're right. But here's what I'll predict. I would predict that the Jazz will fizzle out a little bit, and the Lakers will stay the course. And by the end of the season, the Lakers will be at the top of the West, and we'll talk about how deep the West is because there are going to be very good teams in the 9, 10, 11 seed that won't make the playoffs. So what I'm predicting is that LeBron will end up winning it because he's going to continue with the stat line. And I also don't anticipate that Embiid can keep up this scoring. Honestly, I hope he can because that's just more fun for the league. We haven't, like you said, had a center like this in forever. And it makes everything more fun in the Eastern Conference playoffs. But I think LeBron will end up getting it.
Well, just really quickly, right now, according to the 2020 to 21 NBA MVP award tracker by Basketball Reference, which they rank candidates based on a model built using previous voting results, okay? So right now, after Jokic's 50-point game, his probability is 36.6%. That's the leading one. Embiid's is second. And then right now, hold on. That team is 12 and 10 right now. The Nuggets. Embiid, 17-7 is the record of the Sixers right now. He's averaging 29.3, 10.7 rebounds, and 2.7 assists with, about 1 block and 1 steal. He's got a 21%. Next, LeBron, 12%. And then down the list, Giannis, Kawhi, Davis, Lillard, which I'm kind of surprised they got them over Durant, who Durant's averaging 29.5. And then Rudy Gobert in there. I mean, you want to say...
MVP?
Well, no, he's towards the bottom of the list. He's at number 9. You want to throw a guy on the Jazz in because of how...
They're 19 and 5.
They have five losses right now is unreal. But then on a night where Donovan Mitchell is out, and they're playing against the Mavericks, and what happens? They blow out the Mavericks by 20 because Bogdanovich had 32.
Yeah.
That to me is more of a team thing, and
definitely.
That means I think their coach is more in the coach of the year running. I don't think they really have an MVP on their team. So yeah, I'm gonna go right now, Alex. I'm gonna take Jokic or Embiid over LeBron just because I think if you're gonna get an MVP, this NBA is just it's great. For the past how many ever seasons, it's been you have to have average a triple double, or average 36 points, or be Giannis and have unreal stat lines every night. Like you have to do those things, and I think Embiid and Jokic are closer to doing that, and that's what the voters go for.
Yeah, and I mean look at last year though, John. If Corona didn't happen, the season didn't end. I think what we probably said was going to happen was LeBron was going to take over the narrative, which I didn't think can happen this year.
Well, I told you, LeBron had that spice in his case. He averaged 10 assists last year. Like, he had never done that before. This year, it's a same old LeBron year. He's just as great as he always is, and maybe they want to give it to him just for being the old guy, whatever.
It is. It's like the argument that's going to keep circulating is, LeBron should have 10 MVPs, and then they'll just give it to him. But we'll see. You're right. We'll see. If these stat lines continue with Embiid and Jokic, they probably won't give it to him unless the Lakers' record is far better than the others. Okay, John, now let's run through who we hitting the panic button for. I'm going to give you a few teams that you can just touch on, and then I'll give you quick thoughts, but then there's one team that I want to focus on for a longer time. Spoiler alert, this is a Miami Heat podcast. So, let's start off, John. Panic button. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they traded Andrew Wiggins for D'Angelo Russell last season, and they gave the Warriors their pick. I believe their pick is like top 3 protected. I'm not sure. And right now, the way it's looking is they're one of the worst 3 teams in the league. They might get their pick. They might not. The Warriors might get their pick. Panic button or no panic button?
I don't know what you do if you're this team. Like, cause you want to say blow it up because you have I mean, I don't know who in the league wants a guy like D'Angelo Russell now, because just he has a his plus minus. I mean,
he is the worst in the league among guys who play like over X amount of minutes. I don't know what it is.
So he has a horrible plus minus. Cat. I like Karl Anthony Towns as this is I think is a season where it's showing us after the past 2 seasons we've had, and Anthony Davis and LeBron win the chip, and now we see Embiid and Jokic are leading very good teams and potentially going to be MVPs this year. You need to have a good big man, and I think that's why the Jazz are doing very well with Rudy Gobert in there, who's an awesome defensive player. And I don't know, so I want to keep Cat. But I just don't know how he's not going to request a trade in the next few seasons. So, yeah, panic button. I mean, they've been there for the past 10 seasons. They were an 8 seed with Jimmy Butler that 1 year and then lost in the first round. But, I don't know.
I don't know. You know what you do because if you trade Cat, you just try to get a bunch of draft picks back. Who knows?
I mean, they have how many number 1 picks do they have? They have Cat. They had Wiggins. They had Anthony Bennett.
Anthony Edwards.
It's like every year they can have a number 1 pick, and they're gonna flop on the pick anyway. So.
Well, shout out our guy PDK. That's tough. The Wizards, John, the Washington Wizards, who I was very high on before the season with Westbrook and Beal together. Should they hit the panic button, or do we have a long season left?
I think it's funny because usually when there's the disgruntled star, it's like the team wants to do everything they can to keep him. But it's weird. It almost seems like right now Beal wants to stay with them way more than he should. I mean, you see him pouting in the corner when one of
he already said, players that he's playing with. I still don't want to be traded. Even
he's crazy. It's feel like we've been putting him in trades for the past few seasons because that team has been bad, and he's an awesome player.
I mean, you gotta respect it.
I don't actually, because there's a place where you respect the loyalty and trying to win in your place, but they've been garbage. They are 5-15 right now. Okay, they were 3-12, and I guess they won 2 games, and they've been 2-3 since then. But starting off in your first 15 games and losing 12 of those, when you are a hyper competitive athlete that's at the top of your whatever sport you play, that should be unbearable for you. And that's why Luka has been very pouty and upset this year. And I know we're gonna get to the Mavericks because they're 14th in the West right now out of 15th. They're horrible too. And he's not going to request a trade in his 3rd season with the Mavericks. No, but right now, Bradley Beal's crazy for wanting to stay with that team.
I think that he's someone who does believe that the season can turn around. They're 5-15, and I know it's a shortened season, but you get a 5-6 game winning streak in there. I mean, the bottom of the Eastern playoffs is the Knicks are at the bottom of the Eastern playoffs, and they're 3 games below 500. So while the Wizards are far worse than the Knicks right now, which that seems crazy to me, I think that Brad Beal's someone who says, I can stay the course, we can still make it, we got to pull things together. Thomas Bryant's out for the season, that doesn't help you at all, and their defense is still trash. But I will say, I have seen Bradley Beal doing all these things that, you know, the disgruntled superstar would do, or not superstar, he's not a superstar, star would do when they do want to trade. Like, I mean, there's been videos of him padding on the bench. There was videos of him, actually the first half against the game where they beat the Brooklyn Nets in the very end where they hit those 2 threes, those crazy comeback. In the first half of that game, Beal, the first quarter he went scoreless, but the first half, Beal was like standing in the corner, just like straight up, not even like looking at the ball, not ready for the. So he's doing all these things. The body language is, if we're looking at the body language, it looks like he wants to leave, but then his words don't back it up. So that's a little weird. Yeah. Next up, John, the Golden State Warriors, and with that, I kind of want to bring up Draymond Green and his decline and just his overall athleticism and his overall play and what his effect on the game. He went from, you know, just 5 short years ago to where he was like the defensive player of the year. Actually, not even 5. It
was 2017.
2017 defensive player of the year, and one of the key elements of why that team was incredibly successful. Now he hasn't been looking great. Steph, of course, has been putting on a show, and he just dropped 57 points, which was nuts. But if you're that team, John, what are you thinking? Are you trying to make a trade? Are you worried that you can even make the playoffs? Right now, they're the 8 seed. They're 500.
Yeah, so I just think you look, it's mind-boggling to look at the Western standings right now. Yeah. You look at a team like the Phoenix Suns, who at 13-9 are 5 games back of the 1 seed, and they're in the 4th spot. And then a team that's only 4 games behind them, right, is the Dallas Mavericks at 10-14 in the 14th spot. So from Phoenix through Dallas, everyone's in the running. I'll just run down that list. It's the Suns, the Spurs, Nuggets, Blazers, Warriors at the 8th spot, Kings, Rockets, Grizzlies, Pelicans, Thunder, Mavericks, and then the Timberwolves are like a few games behind at the 15th spot, which they have no shot, like we all think. So am I worrying if I'm the Warriors? No. You have Steph Curry. He's been great. Is Draymond not the same dude he was a few seasons ago? Yes. Is he still the Udonis Haslem type of player? Like we talked about Brady and LeBron just bringing in the intangible stuff. He is the intangible stuff. He is the leadership in the locker room. He is the fiery guy that you need on your team. No. So the truth is, was he going to be an all-star again? No. I mean, I definitely didn't think so. So am I worried that he's not the same guy? No. I just think it's going to be a bloodbath for them to get in at the 8th spot, just given how talented all these teams are. You know, Portland is right ahead of them, and they have Dame Lillard and CJ McCollum, 2 guys that are like 30-point scorers in this NBA, and then above them the Nuggets with Jokic, and who knows how the Spurs are this good, just with their same championship culture every year.
And DeRozan, you got to give credit to DeRozan.
Yeah, so you know, I think the West is just a bloodbath, and it just sucks. And I'm not hitting any panic button. They're not going to be 73-9, obviously, but I think they should still get in the playoffs and be a fun team.
I think similarly, the Mavs shouldn't hit the panic button, although the way they're playing, I know I anticipated Luka to be the MVP. I anticipated that overall their team would be better. I think the reason there's 2 sides of it. I think they shouldn't hit the panic button as far as this season. I think they can still make the playoffs if they pull things together. Luka hasn't been as great as he was even last season. And then
the reason he's had 42 against Steph.
Yeah, but I mean, if you just look overall from from the beginning of the season, he has not been as good as he was.
He came in a little out of shape.
Yeah. And then, but the reason I would hit the panic button is that Kristaps Porzingis trade, man. Yeah. And Kristaps and his health, it's not looking great. And I would be shocked if, in retrospect, that trade that the Knicks made, where they basically, I felt like they gave him up for nothing, for cap space, which they didn't even get to sign Kevin Durant in the end. Yeah. That trade would the Knicks end up winning if Kristaps, can't ever get healthy again. So that's why I would panic about the Mavs.
I mean, I might be crazy, but just talking about some of the teams you just brought up, the Wizards are in there, the Timberwolves, and now the Mavericks. I'm trying to fleece a team for picks. I'm trying to get rid of Porzingis, and maybe that's crazy, but just he doesn't look the same. Injuries affect a guy, and there's a history of guys who are 7'3" and above with just being injured a lot. I mean, and that's what Kristaps Porzingis. That looks like the path that he's going on. A guy like D'Angelo Russell, or if I'm the Wizards, I have 2 stars. I have Beal and Westbrook. I'm trying to, maybe this is a trade. I'm trying to, maybe the Timberwolves are the stupid organization that'll get taken advantage of. Trade Westbrook to the Wolves and maybe take on D'Angelo and try and fleece them for all their picks, or maybe send Westbrook to the Pistons, or do
you can't trade Westbrook,
and then trade Bradley Beal to the Heat and try and get. And this is speaking as not a Heat fan. Try and take Tyler Hero and Precious and 5 first-round. If you're the Wizards, you're already bad. Why don't you just go full send on it and get rid of your 2 stars and get a lot of assets back?
Yeah, I definitely agree for the Wizards standpoint.
That's what I'm saying.
But I know I I think they do probably. I mean, at least fire Scott Brooks, but who knows what that would even do at this point. I mean, he's probably going to get fired.
Yeah.
Okay, last 5 minutes of the show, John. Let's talk about our beloved Miami Heat. And this season has been disappointing, to say the least. That's literally, I mean, I don't even know what else to say. We look like a completely different team from the team that a few short months ago we were the sweethearts of the bubble. We made it all the way to the NBA Finals. It was hard work. It was defense. It was being hard-nosed. It was all these things. It was the Heat culture. And this season we've come in and our defense has just looked, from the beginning of the season, just terrible. Where we're having close games with teams like the Knicks, who right now the Knicks are better than us, but to me that's still ridiculous. We're choking against teams like the Hornets in overtime, the Wizards we lost to without Westbrook, for whatever that's worth. And we have just, I mean, right now we're 12th in the East. We are still, similar to the Mavericks, we're still in the picture. I mean, we have the same amount of losses as the New York Knicks do at the 8th seed, and we've just won 2 straight games, which I think is like the second time we've done it all season. Yeah. So John, what do you think about the Heat? Should we hit the panic button? We still got time to turn around. And also, what have you seen? Why is this happening?
So listen, I think COVID ravaged through our organization. Obviously, Jimmy was out for it. I felt like I counted the days. It was longer than a 14-day.
He was out for so long.
It's kind of ridiculous, but I get it because he lost 12 pounds and he probably had to get back to NBA, level health and strength to be able to play on a nightly basis. But that's one. Bam with missed games. Hero missed games. Dragic has missed games. Pretty much everyone on our team has missed games. So 9-14 to be only 5 games below 500 after that. Okay, it makes sense. Are there still games we should have won at full strength? Yes, the Hornets loss was disgusting. Yes, the loss to the Wizards without Westbrook was disgusting. Those 2 games you should win. But at the same time, I'll say, listen, we haven't gotten the reps playing together. Not as much of a preseason. Now, Butler's been out for a while. Switching a million different lineups. Yes. Now, just from a health perspective, if we are healthy, forgetting COVID, there are lineup issues. I don't think Tyler Hero should be the starting point guard, at least yet.
Well, I don't even know. I think last game they finally started.
They switched Nunn out.
No, then they started Dragic, yes. I think.
No. Well, Dragic started, and then last game Nunn started. Okay. So I like that. I know Spo's going to figure it out because he's just a coach that is always going to be playing with lineups and how we should do a rotation. So I'm trusting in Spo. I'm trusting we're going to get into the playoffs. However, we're how many games in? About 23 games in, and it's a 72-game season. It's a shorter season. We really can't mess around for the rest of the season. Right on our last 10 games, we've been 3-7. We can't do that for the rest of the season.
Yes,
we have to be 8-2 and 7-3 and 9-1 and maybe go on a 10-game win streak. We have to do all that. I don't know if we can do that with Hero as like the starting guy. I think you put Dragic or Nunn in that role, and hopefully Hero is like a 6-man of the year potential guy.
Well, here's what I'll say, John, and if you look at our team from this year to last year, the only guy we've really lost, I guess you could say Derrick Jones Jr., but the main guy I'm saying is Jay Crowder. And
he fits so well.
He fits so well, and of course, he had the best shooting stretch of his career, which was one of the huge keys to our bubble success. Mm-hmm. But what I'll say is, I look at our team, and I think our best 5 players are Jimmy, Bam, Dragic, Robinson, and Hero, in no specific order. And our 5 best players, I think they can't share the court together.
Yeah.
Which to me is not, that's in an NBA, to be a great NBA team, ideally you want your best 5 players to be able to share the court and they can play crunch time. But you look at Dragic, Hero, and Robinson. Robinson's a very good team defense, but what we do is our team defense, we switch on every pick. And what ends up happening, and we saw this in the series versus the Lakers, and we see this, every team pretty much does this, is what they do is they'll have one of those guys switch on to the better player when they just throw a screen and roll, put him in a screen and roll, and then that's it. And then they try to exploit the mismatches. And so now without Jay Crowder, who was someone who made us very dangerous as a team that could switch because he could switch on to about every player.
And he was hitting threes.
And he was hitting threes. So on both ends of the floor, he was huge. But more importantly on defense, because I think that's why we suck right now. And right now, our 4th guy that have been starting is Kelly Olynyk, who he's not a good defender. So I don't know what the answer is. Is maybe we can give more minutes to Precious. Maybe he throughout the season he can develop a jumper, so that way we can have him on offense, and he of course he'd be great on defense. Iguodala has been okay. His jumpers have been hitting a little bit. I mean, when he's hitting, it's good. But then we've had like Max Strus has been getting a lot of minutes. Who to me he's just like a poor man's Duncan Robinson essentially. So it's like great shooter, but on the defensive end, he's not even bringing us anything else. So I think we definitely need to make a trade. Maybe it's for Beal. At this point, I would trade Hero for Beal.
And
I think I was always...
I'll give you the trade. I'll tell you right now.
Okay.
I'm going to do this trade. Let's say they're gonna give us one of their bigs too. So let's say what happened? Is Thomas Bryant? Yeah,
no,
Thomas
he's injured. He's injured.
Okay,
he's out for the season.
Oh, really? Okay, so forget Thomas.
Dude, we're not getting any of their bigs. The trade would have to be just Beal for like
Beal,
a bunch of picks
for Hero, for Kelly because I love Kelly, but we have to get rid of him. He's just not fitting anymore.
And probably Precious.
And like two first rounders.
And Iguodala. I have it actually on the trade.
No, we have to keep
to make the money work, you'd have to trade Iguodala.
Okay.
Well, so it'd have to be here. I mean, we had it on the trade machine.
Because we need to keep Iggy at that, like hopefully he could be a Jay Crowder guy in the playoffs because he's hitting it. He's had games where he's hit his 3-pointers this season. I've been pretty impressed. Usually he shoots it and I'm like, oh, he's missing that, and it's been going in. And obviously the defense and just the veteran role.
Yeah, and definitely like I think that trade actually would make us better, but it reminded me of like the Harden trade, whereas like you're not a good defensive team. You add another offensive player to the mix, and he's not a great defensive player. So now your defense is even worse than it was, but your offense is even better. I'm not even saying that like we wouldn't improve.
Jimmy
and
Bam are two like top tier defenders.
Yeah, no doubt.
So throwing Beal in there, Beal is definitely sufficient enough.
He's capable.
Like he's been a bad defender where as the guy averaging 30 points a game, and so he's not able to play defense on the other side because he's doing everything on offense. So in the right system, he's athletic enough where we know he could be a solid defender. So I'm just saying, I love Tyler Hero. I do want to watch him for the next 15 seasons. And maybe this season's already a wash because, I mean, I wouldn't say that. But maybe you could say the season's already washed because it's going to be so tough to get a high seed and then to go through Philly and all these things. But I believe in Bam and Jimmy as the core guys and Dragic and whatever he has left in the tank. And I would go for Beal if I could.
For sure, John. And maybe it's a smaller trade too, which we'll see what happens. And we're always rooting for the Heat, as you guys know. It's the Miami Heat podcast.
Last question, Alex. Should an All-Star game happen? LeBron said, they told us we weren't going to have it when we came in. We thought we were going to get a break. And now it feels like a slap in the face to have a game. What do you think, Alex?
I say no. At first I was kind of like, before I saw the LeBron quotes, I was kind of like, yeah, why wouldn't we? I mean, it'd be great. I love the All-Star game. And then the thing is, like, it's just totally not worth it. This season so far has been, I don't want to say it. I definitely want to say it. I don't want to say a disaster because at least it's still going. We have to shut down everything. But there have been teams that just, multiple games, canceled and postponed and all these things, and I think it makes no sense. And the bigger thing is like more importantly we like seeing who makes the All-Star team than like even watching the game. So like
I agree.
I think there should be no game. There's no reason to have it. This is a crazy year. It's gonna be probably the second weirdest NBA season after last season, and then. But yeah, it makes no sense to do it.
Right. The other side is that, if the NBA is going to do it, they're going to do it in the most safe way possible after seeing the bubble. And that's what a few people have said. Zach LaVine said it, and also Nuggets head coach Mike Malone. So that's the other side compared to LeBron saying he doesn't want Darren Fox.
I think whatever LeBron says goes. So
we'll see. I mean,
even Giannis goes, LeBron's the big dog, and he says he doesn't want to play, so we shouldn't play. Yeah. Giannis literally said that, which I really love the respect that Giannis always gives LeBron.
They should let the players vote, I think.
Oh, that would be dope. Well, that will wrap us up for today. John, we have spoken recently, and now we're going to try to be pumping out these podcasts every Monday and Friday. And if we don't, if you know us, hit us up. But, so we're back at school. We're going to have more of a schedule. We're looking forward to it, and we're going to get back in a rhythm like we were during the bubble, just like the Heat. That's what it is. That's a metaphor,
Yeah.
The last 2 months, we haven't been on track with the pod. Now the Heat are going to get it back together. We're going to get it back together.
100%. By the next episode, we're going to be talking about how the Heat have already
won 10 straight games or something.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a good one. Go Heat.